the Talon Outdoor Show. I'm Charlie.
I'm JD.
I'm Fred.
Captain Paul Tire.
And I'm Grant.
No, what are we going to talk about? So before the show, we got to discussing some stuff as far as the legalities of some stuff in Florida. I'm sure even the Alabama folks listen to our show and everybody else are familiar with, recent events in Tallahassee have brought to light discussions about, what might we do, what could we do to protect ourselves better when we are out in public places. And, one of those places in a college town like Tallahassee, even in the Dothan area, certainly up in communities that have school campuses, and with the advent of school firearms-related events and things, I mean, even locally, there's kids getting arrested all the time with guns and backpacks, and you just never know what's going on. And so a lot of questions have come up about, well, where can I carry a gun to defend myself, and how old does my kid have to be to have a gun, and how all these things come up. And so, JD, you and I generally assume people know this because we know this. Right. We sit around and have these conversations all the time. And Paul, you had a couple questions about where it might be legal to carry. And now the Alabama audience is a little bit different, but very similar. So I'm not going to speak to some of that because I don't have that at my fingertips at the moment. But pretty much in Alabama, you can open carry, you can conceal carry. In Florida, you can conceal carry now without a permit if you're 21 or older. And yes, you can have a gun, JD, right? If you're 18. Yeah. You just can't buy one. You can't buy a handgun.
That's correct. You can be gifted one if your parents want to give you a gun. You're a grown-up. You're an adult. Actually, at 16, you can be in possession of a gun if you have a hunting license and whatever. Right. If somebody wants to give, if your parents say, yeah, go get the shotgun out of the closet and go squirrel hunting.
Well, there are 18, 19, 20-year-olds that have pistols in their possession. They can't carry them per the concealed carry laws in Florida.
Right, but they can have them in their car. They can have them in their apartment and all those.
It just has to be securely encased and not otherwise readily accessible in Florida, which means it needs to be in a glove compartment or in a box with a lid or zipped in a gun case or snapped in a holster. There's some debate on what snapped in a holster means, but that comes up from time to time. I encourage people to have some sort of positive retention device on that holster, not just friction fit. There again, can you be charged? Would you be charged? Would you win in court? That's more of a Fred question on the legal end, but we could go on for hours on that. I don't want to get too deep down that rabbit hole, but you can. The one of the big issues that I see in Florida now is that we don't have the ability to carry a firearm in a campus facility at a university or a school. Yeah. And with recent events, it brought to light the fact that we've seen these mass shooting events or these mass murders. They routinely and almost always choose gun-free zones to do their evil work. Because there is a very low likelihood, being most gun owners being or attempting to be law-abiding citizens. It's they know that they're not going to likely encounter a citizen that's going to intervene. They are expecting a law enforcement response that usually takes a whole lot longer than it took at FSU last week. Yeah. Well, you and I both came from FSU police, and we understand. We know. We know. And the response of the law enforcement officers at FSU was phenomenal. Yeah. But the problem is that if I'm somewhere on campus, now let's take away any of the statuses that you and I have as relates to retired law enforcement. I'm still certified currently. Our ability to carry in places that some people might not be able to. So forget that.
Yeah, but I still
part.
am not exempt from exempt from the school statutes.
Yeah, you can't. I mean,
as a retired law enforcement officer, I can't carry on school campus legally.
Right. And so I remember when I went back to get my master's degree many years ago. I was a sergeant at the sheriff's office in Leon County, and I was in training. As a supervising the training unit. And I would wear a red shirt and khaki pants, and I had a gun in a holster and a badge on my belt. And I would go to my night classes, and I carried openly, and I could do that as a law enforcement officer. No one else in the class could carry, and apparently there were some people in the room that got offended by that. You know, it was made them uncomfortable. I think it was a Chinese national student here on a student visa or whatever, and made a complaint, and it went up the chain. And the professor in their class, I forget which PhD it was, said, "Hey, you know, just to let you know, I support what you're doing, but there's been a complaint." And I ended up, I don't know if I spoke with the dean of the business school or whether I forget how it happened, but I got a phone call from the chief of police at the time at the university, who was a nice guy. I got along with him just great. And he says, "Hey, Charlie, this is Chief so-and-so. we got a complaint, and I have to talk to you about it. And would you do me a favor and not carry your firearm into class?" And I went, "With respect, my friend, I am going to continue to carry my firearm in class." And he said, "Can you at least cover it up?" And I said, "Nope. First off, I mean, you know, with respect, you can't make me, because I am a by God deputy sheriff, and the policy at the sheriff's office says you shall carry a firearm at all times." And he goes, "Are you sure that's a policy?" I said, "Well, I helped the sheriff write it, and you know, I teach it."
Pretty
so
dang. Pretty dang.
I was in the meetings when we changed that policy. At the time, I don't know what it says anymore, and I don't care. That's up to them. But I said, "You feel free to call Larry Campbell and talk to him." And he goes, "Well, I don't think that'll be necessary." And I said, "Here's the thing: if anybody that comes into that class to shoot up that classroom is probably going to know who's in there. And if I'm in there, they're going to know who I am, and I'm the first one to get shot."
Well, not only that, you're wearing a uniform, although it's not a typical.
It's got a badge embroidered on the shirt,
you're
whatever the case is.
You're wearing a "Hey, I'm a cop."
Yeah, I said, and it being visible, it is a visible deterrent.
Yes.
To that, and I said, so. No, I'm going to carry, and if it makes somebody that uncomfortable, then they need to take a different class, because I'm paying for my tuition just like they are. And I kind of know who it was, because it was somebody said something, and he can pack his bag and go back to his country, because right here and it wasn't the free state of Florida then like it is now. And so I went and talked with, and I had a few classes left, and at the beginning of each class, I'd go to the professor teaching the class, and I'd go, "Hey, you know, just to let you know, this is a deal that has made some people uncomfortable in the past." But in that class, it came up, and I said, "Listen, I just want to bring this up. Somebody in here complained, and I want you to know, I'm good. I'm here to protect you and protect myself." And there was a guy that showed up in a military uniform every class. He was in the military reserves, and he had rank, and he was going there getting his degree too in the night program we were in. And he said, "Well, I want to thank Sergeant Strickland for coming here with this gun on, because I have to wear a uniform every day. Because I leave and I come here in uniform, and I'm the first one to get shot when somebody walks in the door. And I don't want," he said, "having someone in here that can protect me makes me feel better, because I don't have a choice. I cannot carry, and I have to wear this uniform." And so, so we always sat next to each other after that. But
I can tell you this: when I used to teach night school at TCC, and I guess call it Florida State College, Tallahassee State College. Okay, I had a female police officer as one of my students, and she was pretty good looking too.
Has nothing to do with the story.
It made me feel a lot
Fred just
better.
wanted to throw that out there.
Well, I mean, she was. She knows who she is, and she wore her uniform, carried a gun. I always felt pretty safe having her in there.
As you should. But I think most of us would feel safer if we knew that the law could be changed to where responsible adults, 21 or older, under Florida current law, could in fact carry a firearm into a campus facility lawfully to protect themselves or the people around them. We'll be back in just a second. So when we left, we were talking about campus carry and things of that nature, and gun-free zones. And
yeah,
Debbie, you had a point.
Yeah, if you look back at the history of whatever we're calling this today, I still call it mass murder. Active shooter response, active shooter stuff.
I think the politically correct term now that people are using when they're teaching classes is active assailant.
Okay. What?
So okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you have these nut jobs that get a gun and go and try to stack a body count and get a body count as high as they can, and that's really what their goal is, to die in infamy. And so that we all remember their name, that's generally what their goal is. You do have some that are out there on a limb. There are some that are doing it for political or religious reasons. You have it. But for the most part, it's somebody with something wrong with them that just want to go kill a bunch of people. They, generally speaking, not even generally speaking, at a vast majority of the time, they choose gun-free zones or events or places where there is a low likelihood of the average armed citizen intervening in their plan.
I can't think of one where there has.
A couple of parades and stuff like that, you've had some, but the vast majority, there's a reason they pick schools.
Yeah, they never pick police stations or gun stores.
Yeah, exactly. They pick schools or they pick movie theaters, and movie theaters where you have this, the big signs that don't bring your gun in here that are not worth the paper they're printed on in Florida, but in some states those signs do carry weights. So you have these things where they are expecting themselves to be the only one with a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or like in Vegas, they get so far away nobody can shoot back. Or they drive a big vehicle through a crowd or something, knowing eventually they're going to probably get shot. But they're not going to pick a fair fight. Right.
They want easy targets so they can get the numbers up, and that's just generally speaking. It kind of. The big event, the pivotal event in this country was the Columbine shooting, and that we were, as law enforcement, we were totally unprepared and ready for that. There was an event a long time ago at was it Texas A&M or University of Texas, the bell tower, the guy that went up in the bell tower.
1966.
Yeah, 66 was kind of like the first. Yeah. Late 60s.
October of 1966.
Yeah.
The month and the year I was born.
So you had that event. You had a sporadic events. Now it's becoming all too common because, one, media coverage. Two, they're, like I said, somebody's looking to do better than the last one. The few times they have tried it in public areas that were just general public areas that weren't parades, whatever else. The most recent one I can think of is a guy tried it in a mall somewhere up.
Yeah, he got shot.
He got shot real quick by some schmo that was out there eating a sandwich at the food court and intervened and stopped it before it really got started, and everybody forgot about it in a big hurry.
Yeah, that guy, he had done. He could have been a guy that came out here and took Charlie's class. That's the training he had.
Yep.
And I mean,
just average Joe, not even really a competitive shooter, man, did incredible work and stopped this bad guy that could have racked up this giant body count, and it stopped it virtually immediately. And the death toll was so low, and the event was such a it was famous in our circles for a little bit of time because we were cheering on the good guy that stopped the bad guy with a gun.
The one exception I can think of would have been when the Sutherland Springs shooting.
At church.
Right, at church, because they had armed people every day in that church. Just that day, none of them had gone to church. That guy was familiar with the congregation, and he went there looking for the ex-girlfriend, ex-wife's mother-in-law, something like that. And ultimately, he walked into a church full of unarmed people that day. There was somebody moments away going to come to church that would have had a gun, and then our friend went in and intervened with his AR-15, but that's the only one I can think of where there was a strong likelihood that it would have been a fight with some armed people. But the fact is you have to look at the general trend, and the trend is where are they shooting folks? It's in gun-free zones. And so how do we combat that? Well, you can get into the mental health care, you can get into the gun, you can get all the laws and all the things. None of that matters. What matters is how hard is the target? And the target gets a lot harder whenever the target can fight back.
Right.
And if you can.
Well, and I, you know, and I know that their heart's probably not in the wrong place, but you see these protests and marches that we've had in Tallahassee in the last week where they're just, we got to do something about the guns, do something about the guns, do something about the guns. And it's so illogical to me, because the first thing I think, okay, let's pass a bunch of gun laws right now.
It's just noise. You're just making noise.
Right, but if we did pass a bunch more strict gun laws than we have right now, okay, the bad guy. So let's say the bad guy that committed 2 murders also broke a bunch of gun laws doing what he did.
That's exactly what I said.
If you're willing to commit the most heinous crime in our society, which is homicide, if you're willing to commit a murder, you are most assuredly willing to violate the trespassing with a gun laws, the unlawful carry laws, the whatever magazine capacity laws that some states have. You got all these other whatever you call those secondary charges.
Sure.
There's a legal term for that, and I'll let you go with that. But they're willing to commit murder, folks. They're willing to break all the other laws too.
Well, it's exactly what I told my secretary when news broke that this was going down. I was like, that can't be true. There's a law prohibiting guns on campus. And, you know, that's sarcastic. But the point is, they don't care about those laws.
They don't care about any laws.
No.
If they're willing to break the worst one of all,
I mean,
they certainly don't care about the other ones.
Well, after the shooting in South Florida here years ago, Governor Scott then at the time signed legislation that our legislature passed restricting sales to people under the age of handgun sale or any guns under the age of 21. They banned certain, I think, what was it? Was it triggers?
Yeah, that bump stock and the force reset trigger, all that was a different. That was a different statute. But there was something in there. The 3-day wait on all guns in Florida was part of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act. The prohibited sales to anyone under 21 was part of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act.
And had zero effect on anything. Has not stopped anything. Arguably, I would just show me where it would have made a difference.
Yeah,
and we're in this state, in the free state of Florida, where we're supposed to be setting examples for the rest of the country. Most states' concealed carry laws were based off of Florida's law.
And the overwhelming vast majority of guns used in crimes from coast to coast, any states you want to look at, any crime you want to look at, the vast majority, the guns were obtained unlawfully in some fashion or another.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whether by somebody buying it and lying on their back, lying on their 4473, they stealing. The biggest one is stealing them or taking them without permission. That is the big number one. But yet,
there are guns stolen in the Tallahassee-Leon County area almost daily out of vehicles around there. You're telling
absolutely they are.
You're telling me that changing the law to restrict the
law abiding
difference. Yeah, I mean you're gonna take away rights and you're making it more convenient for law abiding people. Well, listen, if you're leaving your gun in your vehicle in a neighborhood at night, you're just contributing to the problem. Don't do that. I mean, I don't care if you lock it or you don't lock it or whatever. And there's this move all the time from the sheriff's office, police department, lock up the Leon County Sheriff's Office, your 9 p.m. routine is make sure your vehicle's locked, secure your firearms, do all that kind of stuff. And that's all good. And as a responsible, law-abiding gun owner, you should not be leaving crap outside where people can steal it. I mean, that's like leaving your rifle in your gun rack in the truck and not locking your door. And then you want to know why they stole it and why it was used in a crime. Well, you're contributing to the problem, not the solution. And it is also making it more likely that somewhere along the line they're going to pass more legislation to try to keep reasonable, law-abiding people from doing things that are careless and make it harder on all of us. And it's not that it's going to make a difference because you're still going to do it. You're still going to do it. You're just going to be able to be charged criminally then because they passed a law because you wouldn't act right. So y'all act right and do the right thing. Now, I'm not going to say there's not guns in my vehicles at night, but I live in the middle of hundreds of acres out in the middle of nowhere. And if you come on my property, there's going to be a dog barking. You might get attacked by a turkey. There's and the lights are going to come on and the video camera's going to come on, and you're probably going to be looking down the barrel of one of my guns. But that said, you got to think about the situation you're in.
There's devices and boxes and things you can put in your car to make it more secure if you feel the need to leave a gun in your car. They make gun safes that go in the center consoles or in the under the seat, and you can lock them down, secure them down.
Right out there with a cable that'll.
They make it more difficult for the gun to be stolen, and and it is careless, but it's also not criminal on the gun owner's behalf. It's just not smart
right now.
But every time this happens, you're going to have the cry for we got to pass, and that's not just guns. That's everything in our society. When something goes sideways, half the population, and I'm not saying which half, it's just half the population is going to stand up and harumph, we got to pass a law.
One side or the other.
One side or the other. We got to pass a law.
We're going to legislate this world back into common sense, and
you can't legislate sin.
No, you can't, Paul. That's exactly right. And it's the immoral people are going to do immoral things.
Let me add one thing that I think is pertinent to this conversation. If you find a gun that's abandoned property, it dovetails on what you said, stealing or taking without permission. There's no difference under Florida law. If you find that gun, you have a duty to report it to law enforcement by Florida law. And it's not, you don't just appropriate. If you're walking around the woods in the middle of the national forest, you find a firearm, you have to report that to the jurisdiction that you're in, the law enforcement.
That question on the phone here a lot. That's what you need to call law enforcement. There is, if you find it on the side of the road, there's a good chance that gun was probably used in a crime and tossed away, and you probably need to report it.
If it's a suitcase full of cash,
you got to report that too. If it's a dog, you got to report that.
Do I report the whole amount or just
count at your discretion?
You can call me first.
All right, well, we'll be back. Back. So I was driving through for those of you that aren't paying attention these days, the farmers are active again up in South Alabama, North Florida, and South Georgia, and you better not be looking at the phone because you will drive right up on the rear end of a rather large piece of equipment. That's right. And almost got me twice in the last week. So y'all pay attention. And to my farming friends out there,
get you a Tesla that drives itself to keep you alive.
Well, the car that my truck and my car that I drive both will scream at you before you hit something, and I got screamed at, and my wife wasn't even in the vehicle. It's like you need to pay attention. So and to my farming friends out there. We look back every once in a while, man. Dude, just look behind you. I mean, I know that stuff's big, and you're doing the best you can to get from the back 40 to Mr. Jones's 120 over there. I've been there, done that, grew up doing that. But look back, and if there's more than like 8 or 10 cars that have been behind you for the last 7 miles, just pull off.
Thank you for that.
Just pull off and let them go around. I mean, I used to do that. I remember, and I was talking to a farmer the other day because I went up to Pavo, and anybody in this area knows what's in Pavo. There's a business up there where you can go get used tractor parts, and I went up there and I bought this week. This week I bought I was been tractor shopping because I needed something with hay forks on the front, and I went up there and bought They made the 4040. I have a 4440 at the house I'm working on. It was Daddy's tractors, but there's a fella up there bought this 4040 when it was 2 years old. Now they made this tractor from 1978 to 1982, I think.
Was that tractor you talking about when you called me the other day?
I have no idea. Did I talk to you the other day?
Yeah, you said you had to go buy a tractor.
Probably was, because it's the one I bought. I did go look at another one, but anyway. Long story short, I'm talking to this guy, and we were discussing when people went from 4-row equipment to 6-row equipment. Now it all folds up, and I said, yeah, I remember when we went from like a 8-foot to a 10-foot. And Daddy bought a 14-foot disc, and I had to fix every mailbox between our house and 4-inch store. on 73 South because we farmed all over the place. Daddy would go find 5 acres, 10 acres, 40 acres, whatever he could, and go, all right, we're going to farm, Mr. So-and-so's, Miss Maddie's field this year, and we got Miss S.D.'s place up there, and blah, 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 blah. I still see those fields today, and some of them are housing developments, and some of them are still being farmed, and houses torn down, people gone, passed on. But I go down that road, and back then, the roads weren't as wide as they are. And the equipment got bigger, and the roads wasn't growing with the equipment. And there was one road over Dry Creek that I had a 1066 International Harvester with a real heavy-duty disc behind it, and the disc only had about 8 inches on either side to get across this state highway bridge. And I'd have to get a running start and look around the curve and make sure wasn't nobody coming, and I'd hit that thing at a dead run and hope nobody met me head on. But, my brothers and sisters in farming, please, man, just look back, because it gets a little frustrating sometimes. Now, we all expect to wait. I mean, we got to wait, because agriculture is, in the South, one of the most important industries, if not the most important industry. But,
we all like to eat, so it's important.
Yeah, I support you, I respect you, but y'all be careful out there and be patient, because these farmers, they don't want to have to stop and build that mailbox back. And get your mailboxes off the side of the road. Move it over there a few feet. I mean, you ought to have enough room to be able to pull over, and the mailman ought to be able to get off the side of the road and put your mail. Move a few feet over, and that'll help out the whole thing. So we all share a responsibility. That's my public service announcement for everybody's safety. We come back, we're going to talk more about guns and fun stuff, but
I just want to reach out to the Dothan audience one more time and remind them about the SIG Shoots competition down here.
Mm-hmm.
May.
Okay.
So yeah,
you better find that on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Oh, we finished up the 100-yard rifle range. We got all 6 shooting positions on the 100 now. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool covered.
To get a lot of use come hunting season.
And then just blinking. You don't have to go to the 400 and fight everybody shooting 400. We'll be back. And we're back. So you see this picture, JD?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out, is they trying to hide the paper towel roll there?
So that's a I was at Beef O'Brady's in Marianna eating last night, and it's got me several times. I go in there and I go to wash my hands, and I don't
use soap.
I don't see the soap, and then I see it, and then I turn around and need a paper towel, and They have what camo patterns?
It's like a Real Tree or something.
Like Real Tree camo wrap the soap dispenser and the paper towel dispenser, and for a second it gets you, because they've got this marble background back here and it blends in. And I posted on Facebook.
But that saves on paper towels.
Well, here's my post on Facebook. I posted it, and what I said was in quotation marks, "Hey boss, good news. Our paper towel usage in the bathroom has gone way down since we camouflaged the dispenser. Only problem is nobody's using soap." And right behind it, there's a camouflage soap dispenser. And I know the owner there, and I know he probably didn't think about it that way, but it's funny. It's funny to me. You think about the things you don't notice, and you can't make stuff harder for me to see, because I won't notice.
So what you're saying is they need to wrap it in blaze orange so it jumps out at you, so you know that there's that.
And somebody right here said Matthew Schott said, solid point, that maybe it needs a little orange vest for better visibility.
See?
So you and Matt Schott had the same thought. Is that scary or what?
Hey.
That probably increases your wait time for the employees to come wash your hands.
Well, I mean, we were waited on by the sheriff's daughter, so I mean, it's pretty it's small town stuff, man. I mean, it should have been. I think I might have hashtag you might be a redneck. Looking at the camouflage dispensers, we need to do that in our store.
Yeah, put some camouflage.
I'm just,
I got nothing better to do. Go in there and just wrap the paper towel dispenser.
Well, yeah, don't camouflage your.
Lord knows I got nothing else going on.
I think we need to paint a bullseye on that thing on the urinal in there, because I think they need to get some more on. There's more on the floor most of the time, and I don't know what it is with that. But it's like, come on,
I'm
guys.
glad we got people to clean those bathrooms.
I am too.
right before the show, I went in there. I washed my hands, and I reached over to our non-camouflage paper towel dispenser, and we didn't have any paper towels in it.
Speaking of cleaning, did you notice the double doors going into the back area back there, the workshop and the storage room and all that stuff where we work back there?
Man, I walked in the studio. I ain't looked twice. Did y'all finally clean that thing after 5 years?
When we get,
new stuff?
And all that build up of
black grime on
the door.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that Talon gun juice, I sprayed that stuff on there.
I'm surprised you cleaned
It's cleaned up so good. Man, that's why my hands are so dirty here all the time. I clean guns every day. I clean somebody's gun. They willing to pay me to do it, I'll do it.
Well, I mean, we got a parts cleaner in there now. Matt snatched a dadgum faucet off the wall yesterday and couldn't flush a toilet for a whole day. Matt said I was turning it off and it broke. I got the real story. I got the real story on that one.
So
Chris done dimed him out. Said he was snatching on a hose and trying to
taking that one home.
Yeah, I said something about taking it out of his paycheck. You know, he's doing these Pokemon's cards and stuff. He's selling the Pokemon cards on the internet. And I said something about that repair bill coming out of his paycheck, and he asked me if I wanted it cash or shiny cardboard. And he goes, I got a $400 Pokemon card I'll give you for it. And I was like, from you, I don't even want cash because you probably printing that up at the house. I want hard silver.
He handed me a plastic card holder with some Cicerone or Chislett.
Don't even try.
Something.
Just Pokemon card.
And one of those cards, and he goes, give that to CJ. And I took it home, and I'm like, okay. I handed it to CJ. And I said, hey, Matt said, get this to you. And he turned it over and saw what it was. I mean, and his jaw dropped. And he's like, really? Really? It's mine? I said, yeah. He goes, this is so cool. And I'm like,
well, Matt tried to give me.
I mean, I've given him guns before in his name, and he's like, oh, thank you, Daddy. He got a dead gun piece of shiny cardboard. He's like, oh, man, this. Do you know what this is? And I went, no, I don't want to know.
Don't care.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't care.
You know, it's basically.
I don't get it,
Fred. It's
like that.
I go back
to
my brother-in-law that is a big-time baseball card, sports memorabilia collector guy, and you know, kind of has him a little side gig and doing all that. And you would be shocked. I know I'm shocked at what baseball cards go for. Well, this is the same thing for a different generation.
Yeah,
nobody cares about baseball cards anymore.
That is not a real person. That's not. It's a made-up looking cartoon dude with spiky hair.
It's still shiny. It's shiny cardboard. Any way you look at it, it's shiny. I know, but we don't have to understand everything that the younger
JD,
folks.
Hold on. What are those guns you always playing with? This is worth this. This is worth that. They don't even work like new ones do. Why are they worth so much money?
Because they're guns.
Because they're guns. They're wood and blue, and it took an artisan to make.
And it's not. We're not even Japanese.
It took some AI artists something to make those dead gum guns.
No, it's not even artwork. It looks like a Hunter Biden painting. It's
cartoon characters.
I mean,
well, I don't get the old. I mean, you know, you look at classical art, and I look at it and I go, okay, why would you spend millions upon millions of dollars? I guess it's.
I mean, like a Mona Lisa. I mean, something like that. That's a work of art, but. This is a mass-printed Japanese.
So here's how Matt explained it to me. Was in his generation, okay, which is between us and anybody that sees this crap on TikTok or Instagram. those kids that don't get it.
The ones that call me those names.
The millennials and the Gen Zs. The Gen Zs and millennials.
So in Matt's generation, they grew up where Pokemon cards and Pokemon was a big deal.
And
a lot of them didn't have a lot of the money to invest in the cards, and they may have lost collections, and now they're looking back and they have money and resources and time, and they want to relive that. It's something that they grew up with, and so now there are collectors in every generation. People in our generation buy antiques and guns and different things. But he said there's a market, and it's not 90% of them. It's a fraction of them, like anything else. And so they look at it as a way to go back and relive some of their youth and have the really cool stuff. that they didn't necessarily have the opportunity to get. Now they've got the money to go buy the card they were chasing. They were going buying these packs. They open these packs and they go through the cards and they find the one they wanted. They've been chasing this card for a while. Now they see it on the internet and a guy says, you can buy this card for $19.99. Here it is. and they'll sit there and I watch this stuff sometimes and I don't even know. I don't get what I mean. To me, it's not that I don't get it, but I do get it because I look at old toys that I grew up with. You know, if you get me a Stretch Armstrong or something like that, new in the box, I would go, that's cool. That's cool. Well, it's cool to us, but it's not cool to them.
Well, that's why
Pokemon's not cool to us, but it is cool to them. And so it's a generational
thing. When the Pokemon thing came out, if I had been in the legislature, I would have made it illegal.
Listen here, Unc. You don't know.
I can hear TikTok now. Old head getting fired up.
Old head getting all mad about Pokemon.
I mean, it should have been illegal when it started. It was just.
Here we go again.
I never understood that. I mean, you got these weirdos running around here, orange hair, running around the park looking for some kind of electronic signal. And, now they're getting all nostalgic about it because they find it on eBay.
Well, remember Pokemon Go when everybody was running around?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Getting run over by cars because they're chasing
I got people in the middle of the road. What are you doing? I'm looking for Pokemon.
Well, it was hard to establish probable cause on some people when we were on patrol back in the day. They were playing Pokemon Go. What are they doing? I think they're trying to capture something out there.
And I don't even know how you capture it.
I installed that on my phone for a while just so I could see what they were doing. And you'd be running along and just out of random, you look over there and you hold your phone up, or I forget how it worked now. And I'm like, I don't really get the people are going places. It's almost like geocaching where, you have some GPS points to go to. Yeah. And you go there and you leave something to pick something up. I never really got that either, but it's kind of cool in a way. But you don't want me involved in that because I was going to find somewhere to put it where couldn't nobody get to it. It's at the top of that telephone. I don't know how you
don't
get up there.
Win anything. I mean, you don't get money. You don't. There's nothing. It's a waste of time.
But for the people that it has value to, it has a lot of value to them. They will spend money on it. We'll be right back. And we're back. So on the break, these two over here started talking about sky's the limit bass rigs. Fred's talking about, I've got all the money in the world.
No, that's not what I said.
More or less, that's what you said.
No, I said.
Well, there's people on the internet think that they can price us out of podcasting equipment. Well, they need to charge more and get these old unks and boomers, which we're Gen X, by the way, off of the radio by pricing us out, and that ain't going to happen. You can run a podcast off a phone. You don't have to have all that fancy stuff over there.
It is fancy. Right. No, so the question was, if money was not an object. I'm not saying it's not.
In other words, your wife's going to buy you something.
Mate, what'd you say? If
it's Father's Day coming up.
If I wanted to get the nicest bass rig, rod and reel rig that I could, without having to have it custom made or anything like that, what would you recommend as the best bass rod out there?
For the reel, it'd be a Shimano Curado.
Curado?
Curado.
Spell it.
Curado. Is it?
I think that's close.
Shimano Curados.
Curado. Okay.
That's a very good rod. I mean, a
reel.
Very good reel. Bait casting reel. For a spinning reel, it would be a Shimano Stratic.
Not a Stella?
That would be the one that's a little bit better than that one.
Yeah.
They just come out a couple years ago. That's very nice.
Well, Stella's had, I think, 4.
They're very nice reels. I have 4 Stratics, and they definitely cast further. I haven't got a Stella yet, but that is a very good reel.
Okay, now that's for spinning.
That's for spinning.
Yeah, they're good for saltwater too, by the way.
You can, just make sure you clean them.
Yeah,
very well.
Well, they're sealed. I mean,
that's right, but still, you need to. If you take it anytime saltwater, you need to really clean it for sure.
Well, you use your what do you call that stuff? The spray.
Yeah, we've had to try this on the rods.
I hadn't thought about that. So that's my question about the reel. What about the rod? What is? If we're talking like best rod you could get.
Yeah, G Loomis they're very good rods.
Now, they carry a lifetime warranty.
Yes, they do.
And you break it, even if you break it in the back of your pickup truck, they'll replace it.
They got different levels, but their top of the line rod is I think a STX. It's very nice.
That's
And you want
for a bait
that,
casting rod.
That's right.
An
They have
STX.
spinning reels too. They're spinning rods too. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about bass. We're not talking about redfish. I mean,
Dude, you fish for bass with spinning rigs.
Absolutely.
If you're throwing light baits, little Ned rigs or something.
That's
You
right.
gotta
I'm talking about bait casts.
I know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's
so-
telling you.
All right.
He
so,
right.
All right. So the G limits be like the top of the line. What is like a very good quality for the money rod that you're on a budget and you want a good rod that's going to last you a long, long time?
I would look at either a TFO, Temple Fork Outfitters rod. They make a very good rod. I've actually had some 7-foot spinning rods I've used for, I guess ever since you got them, JD, here about 5 years ago.
And we don't sell. We got a few left, but we're out of the fishing tackle business here for the most part. But they're really good.
Very good.
The TFO?
Yeah,
Very good.
Okay.
They're made in Korea. I just saw a thing saying they're going to, with the tariff stuff going on, the prices could be increasing, but they haven't yet. But very good rod.
The vast majority of all fishing tackle
Yes.
today is made in Korea.
Yes.
in South Korea.
Yep.
Okay, so
A lot in China too.
Yeah.
so now we've talked about a quality, economical rod. We're talking about top of the line. What's mid-level?
Mid-level would be, for you, I would definitely say the Stratix for a mid-level.
No, not the reel, the rod.
Okay. The rod, I would, you got TFO, Temple Fork Outfitters. They're about $140 to $160 rod. They've got $250, $300 rods. They're going to be lighter.
Okay.
When you go up to the more expensive rods, the lighter they become.
And is that an advantage for bass fishing to have a lighter rod?
Especially if you're throwing something light, it's a lot more sensitive.
Okay.
But I've learned things you can do to add some weight to the butt, and you can make a $100 rod feel like a $300 one.
Really?
Yes, it makes a big difference.
Just adding weight to the butt of it.
And the weight to the butt of it. All I do is take the.
never knew.
The
Or you can go to Jim next door and
That's
get a
right.
custom rod made like you want it, and you're not talking about a huge difference in price.
He makes
really
a
not.
very good rod. The one I've got for the shellcracker, I've used it.
Speaking of,
He just
so this guy,
and it slings him in.
So we do have a custom rod
Yes, does
builder
a
here
very
in
good
the building
job.
with
He
us
is-
in Midway in Tallahassee.
yep, sure do.
And he'll
He's,
make something exact to your specifications. What you're
tell him what you're going to do with it, and he can make you the rod.
Yes.
From it
And
buys the
does he-
blank. He does the type of handles you want, all that stuff.
everything.
Let me ask this. I've got a couple of rods that tips broke off.
He'll take
Absolutely.
it. He can fix that too.
Absolutely.
They don't make the rod anymore.
Don't matter.
He can fix it. Bring him next
Don't
week.
matter.
Okay,
That's what Jim does.
All right.
So
I don't know why I didn't know that.
So this guy, Paul, that guy down there, calls me yesterday. This is the day. This is Thursday. Calls me Thursday afternoon. He says, "What you doing in the morning?" I was like, "I'm going to work." You think you can get off work? And I'm like, I just got.
I
too
only
much.
meant for a couple hours.
I know, but
to
I
be
just
down here.
I had too much on my plate. Things I had to get done today. He goes and finds a shellcracker bed and calls me. Hey, so I guarantee you he has been at before we're recording the show this Friday morning. I guarantee you he was sitting on a shellcracker bed
I
at
know for a
daylight.
fact
Charlie,
it was.
it was
I
out
talked to
there.
him on the phone.
Were you on a shellcracker bait this morning?
Yes, sir. An hour before daylight. I went with my mentor.
See?
He said, "Son, this boat's leaving at 5." So I had to follow him in mine. And I get down there and I'm running lights, so I can see. He goes,
Turn them lights off.
that's exactly what it is, but a lot more colorful language than that. And I was like, I was just seeing where I was going. He said,
everybody in the
know where
world
you're going. Everybody know where I'm going to see you. I was like, yes, sir. I just turned the lights off.
I knew exactly where that was.
Yeah,
Don't you let nobody see us over here. We got to slip up in here and we got to get on this bed. We'll have 47 boats parked around us.
That's exactly. Was you there?
No.
You really?
No.
But
I was in spirit. Yes, in spirit I was with you this morning, sir.
I just talked to my buddy Wes. That's got a fella from Tennessee, Aaron, Tennessee. He's come down last night and staying with us, and I think last time I talked to him, they're at 74. So they have a limit 50 per person.
Man, now Aaron, Tennessee is a very small.
Yes, he said it's a small little place.
We had some friends.
Overalls.
We had some family friends that moved from Chattahoochee to Aaron, Tennessee.
Really?
And the first time I ever fished Kentucky Lake was with Joe Meacham. He passed on.
Yep, he says right there, Kentucky Lake.
But when I was a kid, went up there and fished Kentucky Lake. Me and my granddaddy and Joe. And
that's where fish jump out of the lake and hit you in the head when you're riding your boat now.
Those carp wasn't there
Asian
when I was a
carp.
kid. Yeah.
Yep.
That's bullheads or big head carp or whatever they are.
Yep.
Those
Asian
ones that eat
carp.
grass.
Yeah, I don't know what they eat, but I can tell you there's places along the Mississippi River. We used to hunt. I hunted up near north of Vicksburg for years and years and years. And did I tell you Jerry passed away? Jerry Johnson, the guy that we duck hunted with out there for
nice fella.
For years and years and years, passed away. But anyway, first time I went in one of those lakes, and I had a surface drive motor at the time, and I'm running across that thing, and all of a sudden, whoa! And I'm like, what in the world? It was cold. I know it wasn't a gator. I mean, it's like I hit something, and it was one of them carp jumping out of the water and hitting the side of the boat. Yeah. And I had my headlamp on, driving the boat with my headlamp. And I turned around and looked behind me, and them things were jumping all out of the water. And I almost considered just foregoing the duck hunting and jump shooting some carp. I mean, I thought that would have been, it'd be fun. You ride around with a shotgun and you get somebody to drive the boat, and you shoot them when they jump out the back.
That's pretty good.
If they were good to eat, I'd probably try that.
Yeah. I hear they've been harvesting them up there, to
do what with them?
They're turning them into dog food. They're trying to make an industry.
Poor dog.
Yeah, cat food. Yeah.
Whatever they're doing with them. It's ruined that.
I've heard it can be made edible. They say that those snakeheads that are also an invasive, snakehead fish that looks a lot like what we call a mudfish, but it ain't the same thing. They got spots on them.
Like a bowfin?
Looks a lot like a bowfin, mudfish, grendel, whatever.
Like a
prehistoric. It is a prehistoric.
You can throw a bowfin out in a mud puddle, and it'll dry up, and he'll crawl back to the water.
But the snakeheads will too, and the snakeheads are an invasive in South Florida big time. But they're finding them all over the U.S. up and down, and they are a super predator.
Yeah. They'll kill a lake.
Yeah, well, they say that they are delicious to eat.
Really?
And yeah, they were. I read an article. They were talking about the top 5 invasive species for the table fare, and they were talking about nutria, which I've heard is good. The nutria is really a delicate, mild-flavored meat, a lot like a rabbit. The iguana, the green iguana, which I still want to go down there and iguana hunt. We still need to put that trip together. Yeah, and but the snakeheads and the carp, those carp, the snakehead fish, and then wild hogs, because wild hog is as good a eating as you're going to get.
But you just had another turkey hatch?
Yeah, I'm hatching turkeys. I'm watching them on my in-home security camera at the house. I'm hatching turkeys right now.
See that picture of Charlie?
Y'all talking about fishing? I got turkeys hatching.
Sorry to bore you, Charlie.
But he actually had a turkey laying on his stomach, sitting in his easy chair.
I am taming these chicks so they will like me. Unlike their father,
and you will hook him.
He might be eating him for Thanksgiving.
Hey, Jacob the turkey may not be long for this world because he got after my wife the other day.
That settles that.
The only person in the whole family that can pick him up is my son.
Can I do it?
You wouldn't get. You come over the other day. You were gonna get the pen with him, and you didn't get.
I changed my mind.
Yeah, I bet you did. Don't put
only because I didn't want to kill your turkey in front of you.
See, that's the only reason I didn't straighten him out. But anyway, we'll see all y'all turkeys next week.